Hey guys, it's me, Kim. I am back for another patrons only video. Hi, how are you? How are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. So this video is going to be me addressing patron suggested topics. So we will jump into it. Of course, in these videos, I talk to you extemporaneously about topics and put on my makeup. So yeah. And this is my bare face. The first thing we're gonna talk about is how do we navigate our hypocrisy. So, you know, for me, I'll just talk from like personal experience. For me, the process begins with identifying what those hypocrisies are. So doing, you know, I always say, I really believe, I think like 70% of our politics is about what happens inside. I really, really believe that. And then then you externalize the work that you've done on the inside, and then that work translates into outside. It's like almost do too much. It's like Cornel West says, I love Cornel West, by the way. Anybody who talks shit about Cornel West, we can't be friends, sorry. He says a lot. Am I gonna do a primer though? Maybe. He says that justice is what love looks like in public, you know? And so that really motivates a lot of the work that I try to do. You do that self-evaluation. You say, what are my ideals? What are my goals? What do I think needs to happen for us collectively and me individually to reach those goals? And for me, my goal is to move toward a more equitable world. Now, you know, there's so much stuff that goes into that, but just because it feels impossible doesn't mean that you don't try, you know? Like, that's the lesson that I've learned from really being serious about my study, right? Just because it looks bad now doesn't mean you don't try, right? Like, what if, you know, people were like, when slavery was a thing, they were like, what's gonna happen when the slaves are free? Like, you know, and it's like, well, let's figure that out after we free the slaves, you know, or the enslaved people, because we don't call people slaves, right? Like, and I know now, you know, I'm an abolitionist. And people are like, what's gonna happen when we don't lock up people for 20 years for possessing marijuana? Like, what are we gonna? And it's like, you know what? Let's do the thing and then we can figure out what happens. I really believe that. Like, yeah, anyways. So, figuring it out. And then, you know, I've, recognized so many ways that I was a hypocrite. I've talked before. So when I'm trying to navigate my hypocrisies and to parse out, you know, the stuff that I really deserve to be beating myself up over versus the stuff that's like, okay, for me, the determining factor is, am I hurting someone? Who am I hurting? I think that there are some hypocrisies that do not hurt people. So I am obsessed with pop culture. Anybody who used to follow me on Twitter or whatever knows that I used to spend so much of my time just like, and I still do, watching TV and listening to music and listening to podcasts and all of that stuff. So much of the pop culture that we watch is like vaguely, it's like hashtag problematic, right? Like, it ain't right. I listen to a lot of rap music. It's not right. I am obsessed with reality TV. It ain't right. I just like a lot of stuff that is just not perfect. And for a while, right, before I started reading more contemporary feminist theory, I really was like, oh my God, like, I'm such a failure, like, this sucks, and, you know, like, what is wrong with me? I suck so bad, you know? And I just really used to be so down on myself. And by the way, like, sometimes you deserve to be down on yourself, right? Like, there are certainly things that I legit that I have given up. There are certain songs that I used to really like. There's a group called Travis Porter from Atlanta, and I have one song, and one day I was listening to this Travis Porter song, and I was like, you know what? And I was just by myself, and I said, you know what, Kim? You can't listen to this song no more. It was about, I don't know, shaking it like a dog or something. Something like really, really degrading and demeaning, right? I have my boundaries, you know? Stuff that is just like over the top demeaning, stuff that is promoting rape or violence, stuff that is just makes me feel gross to listen to because I know too much about the person who made it, or I know that somebody was harmed in the making of it, and this is, you know, movies and music, right? All sorts of stuff. Where I say, you know what, Kim? I don't feel right, but I make a lot, but it's a constant negotiation, and I think like that's the biggest thing. It's just like not being afraid to be self-critical, you know? I think another thing about the hypocrisy piece is sometimes we avoid asking ourselves and each other the hard questions because it is awkward. You know, I think it's really awkward to be like, you know, I'm out here, you know, trying to tell people to live right and you can't even do it. That is really, really awkward. And I think that our first instinct is in the same way that I don't believe in self-flagellation. You know, I don't think that we should spend our lives being like, oh my God, you know, and it's very performative, that kind of stuff. Like, I suck, I'm shitty, like I have to live a perfectly wholesome, pious life. I don't believe in that, but I also, and like, I think that I want to have this conversation because I don't know if we're really balancing it the right way, but I also don't want people to be like, well, nobody's perfect, so let me just do what I want to do. And you know, like, no, like we have to be able to balance it out, right? I do worry, and I even worry now in saying this, I don't want to let myself off the hook too easily. I want to be rigorous and constantly self-reflective and asking the hard questions and asking other people the hard questions. But I also want to acknowledge that life is hard, life is messy, we're all just trying to figure this out. Pleasure is important. You know, it's just like a constant balancing act. So, you know, I think Jake asked this question, I think that as long as you are constantly asking yourself those questions about your hypocrisies and reevaluating and being willing to make adjustments, you know, I don't let the fretting about hypocrisy dominate my life. I don't. And also, I am able to be gentler with myself, like I said, because I read more younger feminists, contemporary feminists like a Joan Morgan, who coined the phrase hip-hop feminist in When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost, and she wrote that 20 years ago. It seems like older feminists were really about it's black or white, choose a side, like very almost parochial, right? Like the stuff that you learn in Sunday school, right? Choose you this day who you're gonna serve. People are really, I feel like they are surprised how well I can quote the Bible because I grew up very religious. Anyways, but we don't live in that black or white space. So anyways, are you hurting somebody? So for me, now that maybe I'm more public, but I also worry about like who am I going to influence. So there's lots of things that I enjoy personally by myself that are like a little contradictory that I don't choose to tweet about or post about or talk about because I'm just like, look, you know, I can just keep this to myself or keep it, you know, with my close friends. Like, I do think it's like, I know it's not quite right, it's not quite there, but I don't want to endorse it. you know? And that's like, I guess it's like for real hypocrisy, but anyways, it's hard. But when it comes to, am I having a negative impact on you? You know, and like I always say, we live in community. That's the stuff that I really try to be conscientious of, and I really slap myself on the wrist over. So, you know, like I said, homophobia, classism hurts other people in ways that it will never hurt me. Homophobia hurts other people in ways that it will never, I mean, you know, it's just like, I want to reduce the harm that I do, you know? And so as long as we're consistently asking ourselves, like, how can I reduce harm? I think that's the way to go about that. Okay, moving on. Moving on. The next thing. So, in my Terry Crews video, which has, I don't know, maybe like 800 comments now. Of course it does, because, you know, the Hoteps, let me tell you. On YouTube, the Hoteps will find you. They will find you. They sure will. They'll find you. And the Hoteps found that Terry Crews video. I have powder on my lip. And the comments are just so funny. And I'm just so glad that I've committed myself to not clapping back at all of those comments. But anyways, so people, particularly Hoteps, are very offended by me saying, you know what, I'm just, and I've been saying this like for a decade, I care about what happens to every single person on the planet. I genuinely do, right? Like I said all the time, I'm empathetic to a fault. In fact, people don't, I think people have an issue with me because I think everybody can be saved. I've already, you know, made a video before about I think everybody can be saved. I really do. I think reconciliation is possible for everybody. And, you know, a lot of people don't believe that, but I do. But there is an expectation. If I love black people, I genuinely do. I care about what happens to us. But, straight black men, cisgender black men take up a lot of space. They take up a lot of space. Men in general take up a lot of space, but as a black woman who spends a lot of time doing black stuff, black men, straight black men take up a lot of space. And we are expected to cede that space. You know? And I noticed this even as, you know, a teenager in the African American Studies department at my alma mater, where it's like even the women professors were giving straight black men so much space and so much benefit of it. And it was just like, but, you know, like, other people need that space. And I have decided that because other people need that space, that I just cannot dedicate all that space mentally, in my work, in my thinking, in my theorizing to straight black men. So for me, how that shows up is I think that there is a growing movement now of women that are just like, fuck black men. Now look, I'm not there. I'm not there. I used to be there, but you know, when I was a child, I thought like a child. Second biblical reference of the day. I used to be there. I'm not there anymore because I think it's just more complicated than that. First of all, because if you're a black person who likes black stuff and I mean, look, no matter what culture that you're in, you are going to interact regularly with people of all genders. So it doesn't work to be like, fuck that. And it's like, okay, well, but you gonna have to see them and talk to them and interact with them, and they are your cousins, your brothers, your uncles, your kids. So I now have a much better understanding of fuck them doesn't do it, right? And fuck them also doesn't do it for me. You know, I don't have no kids, but I have lots of black men that I love, family, but also I date at this point 100% black men, 100%. That's my choice today. It might not be my choice. I always have to say, today that's my choice. You do what you want. I cannot be completely divorced from what black men do, because we gonna see each other. So then how do I balance saying, okay, this work that I am not talking to you today. Today I'm not talking to you. How do I balance that with an understanding of like, you're in this, it's hard. It's definitely difficult. I would say for me, it starts from thinking about where my time and energy is best spent, you know? So in 2019, we've had hundreds of years, literally, hundreds of years of black community issues centering straight black men. And in many ways, we still in the same place. Now, a part of that is about, you know, structural inequality and all of that. But a part of it is, if you tell people for hundreds of years that they are the most important people in the community, that they deserve to take up all this space, that, you know, they'll lead and the rest of us will follow. I mean, you know, they are going to take that space by force. And then when you say, okay, well, can we just get a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've taken up all this space for all this time. So can we just, and then the backlash, you know, that's like the crazy, I'm trying to stop saying crazy, you know, crazy is an ableist slur. Gang, you know, bodega gang. But then when we say, you know what, we've been giving y'all all this space for all of this time. What if we just, you know, more equitably distribute the resources? And then it's like, you know, the sorts of comments that I get, it's like crazy to me, because I'm trying to be nice. You know, I feel like I'm trying to be nice about it. There are other people who are much meaner about it. But you know, oh, like, you hate black men and you're bitter and you're gonna, and it's like, all right, well, that's not true. That's not true. You know, like I said in the video, I wish you the best. You know, I hope that we can work in tandem to achieve our desired outcomes. I just can't get behind you or dedicate my time or my money or my resources that way. But I want it for you. I want freedom for you. I want liberation for you. I just gotta be over here working for these people that you're not even going to work for. You know, it's so weird to me. You know, under that Terry Crews video, when people are saying, well, we protect you, and I'm like, no, you don't. But you don't, though. And the other thing, you know, I'm not a nationalist. I'm not a black nationalist. Another thing that I really got from Cornel West is him saying, you know, nationalism is very intimately connected to patriarchy, right? So I have said over and over again, I'm really not into hierarchies in that way. I think that they're really restrictive. They're generally very regressive. And people who are like real nationalists, even feminists who are nationalists are the people who do that. I love men. I don't want the brothers to think I'm not. And I'm like, y'all, we done spent 50 years trying to tell the brothers that we're down, okay? We gotta do something else. Because they still hate you. The nationalist men still hate you because nationalism is intimately, sorry, I gotta focus on this. It is intimately connected to regressive ideas about who is in charge, who leads, what is the role of women. You cannot, and we see that, and this is my thing, right? When you try to reproduce structures among black people that didn't work in the larger society, we see how nasty and gross nationalism is in the mainstream. We see what American nationalism does. We see what white nationalism does. So we're gonna try to do black nationalism and think we're gonna do something else. Now, obviously, black nationalism and white nationalism are not the same thing because the history and the power are different. It's not the same. The consequences are not the same. But it feels familiar in ways that I find to be disconcerting. So no, that's why I'm not a nationalist. Anyways, I always get off on these tangents. So Celia asked me about how do I balance care for black men while also saying, look, I want y'all to be free. And I just do it from a distance. I try to amplify the voices of people that I think are doing good work. You know, I've made a couple of videos about Terry Crews. I've made a couple of videos about Terry Crews because I think that he's doing really good and important work. And anybody, you know, I'm not a fuck black men person. You know, I'm not a I love men person, but I'm also not a fuck black men person. No, not anymore. Used to. So when I see black men who are not only doing the work of internal transformation, but externalizing that transformation, I try to highlight it. So like a year ago, there's an interview on this Patreon of me with a man named Richie Edmund Vargas, and I learned about him in this, okay, we're getting a little, I get worried, but it's okay, Kim, you just need to hold on. Just keep going. What did the beauty gurus do? They just keep going. So if you just keep going, you're gonna be fine. So anyway, I discovered Richie on this CNN online documentary, or it might have been on TV, but you know, I only watch TV on the internet, called The Feminist in Cell Block C. And basically, Richie was incarcerated in California, and he was teaching other incarcerated... Okay, that's enough of that. He was teaching other incarcerated men. Okay, so now we're going to try to do a little halo action. But what kind of brush? We'll do this kind of brush. Teaching them how to let go of toxic masculinity, and doing it through teaching bell hooks and all of that kind of stuff, you know? And so I tweeted about it, and then, you know, his wife was like, oh, I love your work, and okay, keep going, Kim, you can do this, don't give up, you know? Okay, we're just gonna keep going. Don't give up. You can do this. So his wife was like, I love your work. And so we got in contact, and he wrote me a letter from prison because I was so moved by the work that he was doing to teach these incarcerated men about dealing with conflicts without using violence and not abusing their partners and not viewing women as sexual objects and property. Like, I was so moved by that. And anytime I see a man doing that kind of work, it's not fuck men. Like, change is possible. That's the reason why I'm not like fuck men, because I believe that people can change. I don't believe that it is my purpose to be teaching everybody, but people can change. And so when I see people really putting in the work to facilitate the transformation of people that I know that I am not going to be really messing with, I am very moved. Okay, but look, last video, the eyes, I really felt like they were looking bad for like a long time, but then I did something and then they started to look good. So I feel like that's possible here, right? It definitely is. It definitely is. Like, don't freak out. So anyways, so I, you know, gave him money and posted that interview here, and we're gonna do something on the YouTube channel and the main website. Hopefully we can hook up this year, but I think it is important to say, like, here are your other options, right? Don't look to me, look to this person. These are your other options. So that's what I say to, you know, men who are trying to teach other men. So how do I, you know, balance that with the people that I'm dating? You know, before I've said, you know, men choose, you know, what type of woman they want. And I think, you know, and people have come back at me and said, no, that's not true. Men don't choose, you choose. And I guess we choose each other. You know, the power dynamics, if you're a heterosexual person or a woman who dates men, are unequal, but we do choose each other. And I'm very choosy. I'm very choosy. I think it's really, I vet. I said before, I do a lot of vetting. So I think that if you think that a part of your calling in life is to teach men, then that will show up in all sorts of ways, including your romantic life. So when I was a young warthog, okay, I made a lot more allowances, particularly ideologically, right? Because, you know, when you're dating black men, you gotta be like, well, you can't expect them to have their politics right and all of this. And now I'm just like, well, yeah, you can. I can expect you to have your politics right if you want to date me. I'm not perfect. You know, my politics are not perfect. Your politics are not perfect. But what I'm not going to do is deal with homophobia, transphobia, any of that kind of stuff. I just can't. I just can't. I have tried and even people with, like, when I was younger, I dated this man that he's a doctor now. You know, and the other thing is, you know, I date a lot of very educated men, but educated men be having some horrid politics. Horrid. And the thing about them is they think that they're horrible, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic politics are progressive because they're not violent. And it's like, no. I'm a student man now who's a doctor working at a school in Virginia that I'm not gonna say, who used to say Beyonce has made women too confident. You're done. You know, like, we're finished. We don't have anything, you know. So I just think, you know, carrying I can't carry you. Obviously, we can teach each other things and be better and learn from each other. That's absolutely going to happen. But I cannot carry you. Oh, and the other part of that question is, well, if you have decided not to be so deeply invested in black men, then why aren't you dating non-black men? You know, look. Because I don't want to. That is my answer today. Because I don't want to. And honestly, I don't have to. If I was having horrible experiences with black men, then I would be like, you know what, girl? Let's do something else. But I'm really not. And I still believe that who you partner is a reflection of your politics. you know, I'm not a nationalist, but I do still believe that what happens in our homes matters. What happens in our intimate lives matters. So families are the building blocks of society. That was in a feminist, I want to say that it's called Gender and the Family. That's where, but anyways, she's not the first person, by Susan Mahler Oken, but she's definitely not the first person to say that, right? So I believe that what happens in your family matters. The choices that you make in your families matter. But the reason why it's not cut and dry, and why I'm much less judgmental than I used to be, particularly when it comes to black women, is I also recognize that the numbers just are not in our favor. You know, I've said before, you gotta have stuff if you want to date me, because I have stuff. And so that means that the pool is already going to be small for black men. And if you are a woman who, like me, believes that you're not going to be dating somebody who doesn't have stuff, then maybe you don't want to. And also, you know, one of the reasons why I can afford to, you know, say, oh, I'm only going to date black men, again, is because I don't want children. But if you are a young woman and you're single and you want to have kids and you don't want to wait around for these men who think that they are God's gift because they know that the numbers are in their favor, and you want to go ahead and, you know, get with a white person or a non-black person, I don't judge. I used to be judgmental about that, I will say. I used to be like, you're telling, you know, white supremacy and all of that stuff. But no, just like, you know what? Be happy. Do what you gotta do. Once I really internalized how bad the numbers are looking, you know, white women over the age of 18, there are more single white men per white woman, right? So it's more than, the ratio is like more than 1-to-1 for white women, meaning that there's more single white men than there are white women. There are way fewer single black men than there are black women in major metropolitan areas. That's the study that I looked at. It was by what is his name? Philip Cohen. That's the study I looked at. So that means, ooh, okay, just blend it. You know what you just said, but what did you say, Kim? We're in the blending mode. So that means just the numbers are not there. They're just not there. So I've embraced that they're just not there. I will not judge you. Of course, you know, why would you even care what I have to say about it? You don't. You know, who am I? No one. Single like you. So, you know, if I woke up tomorrow and decided that I want to have children, then I probably would open up my dating pool. I would. But I don't. So I am okay. I also have to say that just because I think that black men need to do their own work and that we need to unabashedly claim more space for people who are not black men doesn't mean that I think that the terrors of structural racism that are inflicted upon black men, or that the abuses that they experience, that they deserve those. I think that it is very possible to say, look, you know, I can't give you the time that you expect without taking it to the next level and saying, well, that's why the police beat your ass. Like, no, I do not endorse that at all. And there are quite a few people who take it there. Quite a few people on YouTube take it there. And I'm like, no. Because white people out here being amoral, criminal, gross, and they are not being killed by police, and they are not being shot, and all of that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not where my politics are at this juncture. I think there is a real difference, and misandry is not real. There's no structural force behind misandry. That's why I do not acknowledge it. But again, my goal is always going to be justice and equity and everybody being able to be safe and happy and healthy and whole. So, you know, I'm not out here being like, that's why you got beat down. Like, no, that's not for me either. And look, in a couple of years, you might, you know, tune in and, you know, have me saying, well, I'm with the white man now. And, you know, that'll just be a hypocrisy that we'll just have to live with, because it's not gonna hurt you. And I also, you know, I do view, you know, people are trying to come for Kamala over her white husband. I'm like, y'all, I am sure all sorts of men have tried to get with Kamala. I'm sure she's dated all kinds of men. She decided to marry a white man, and I do not blame her one bit. Trying to give her shit for that is like, y'all, please. It's like trying to give Serena shit for marrying Alexis. Girl, that's not the best use of your time. It just is not. And I see now black men and women, but you know, there's some Hotep identified black women out there. I'm like, look, there's lots of things I'm going to give Kamala Harris shit for, but marrying a white man in this economy is not one of them. The last thing I'm going to talk about is B. Smith. Now, I don't know if y'all are familiar with this story. So B. Smith is a noted lifestyle maven. Like, I remember seeing her as a kid. Like, we went to her restaurant in DC and she was like on TV, and she was just like a beautiful dark-skinned black woman with beautiful locks. Just like, I mean, I guess the basic way to describe her would be the Black Martha Stewart. So anyway, her husband, for the past, I don't know, for a minute, people have been criticizing him. So she came out and said that she had Alzheimer's a couple years ago. And I was like, oh, I remember being like, oh, that's so sad. Jesse Jackson also has, no, he has Parkinson's. Never mind. Sad disease, horrible, horrid. And she's young. She's only like 66 or something. So when she got diagnosed, she was young, which is, you know, really scary if you have if your parents are getting up there. Well, my mother is 60, about to be 61. I think it's really a little bit scary, right? Because death is coming, illness is coming. Anyways, the point is, so I want to feel like, when did I first hear about her husband stepping out? So maybe about a year ago, there were reports that her husband, she didn't have any children, so her husband is like the executive of her estate and manages her affairs, but he was dating someone. He's dating a white woman, and yes, it does matter. And that's not a double standard. Dating is different for black women and black men. Partnership is different. So now, B. Smith, her husband, and her husband's girlfriend were in the Washington Post. Girl. And basically, the husband in the Washington Post was just talking about, you can't judge me, and I needed help, and I'm like, okay, now look. The Washington Post, for real? We don't know the meaning of discretion. First of all, don't nobody know, I think his name is Dan Gatsby. Nobody knows or cares about Dan Gatsby. So Dan, what are you doing? Why are you bringing this into that national newspaper, Dan? We don't know you. You're a stranger to us. So for Dan to be in the Washington Post with B. Smith, like literally an icon. I think she is an icon. I would describe her that way. You know, and not only that, but also, first of all, I'm side-eyeing the fuck out of the Washington Post, because not only was there just a written article, but there was video. Y'all, let me just tell y'all, I already group chatted this to my friends. Don't have me out here looking crazy. If something happens to me, if I get a terminal illness, a horrible, uncurable, a chronic illness, Do not have me looking out here crazy. The fact that Dan thought it was so critical to rehabilitate his image, or, you know, set the story straight or whatever, that he would have his still wife, right? They are still married. She's just incapacitated because she has Alzheimer's. That she would that he would have her out here looking crazy is so gross and unforgivable to me. One of the reasons why I have the ideals about money that I do is because the worst thing in the world, I mean, a fate worse than death for me, would be to be subject to the whims and the desires of a man. And I think it is so disturbing to me and heartbreaking to me, and this is one thing that really scares me about choosing not to have kids, is B. Smith did all this work to build this empire, and he, you know, they've been married since like 1992 or something, so he was there, I guess, right? But you not B. Smith. You not her. This is her brand. This is her legacy, and she did all of this work to build up this thing, to build this thing that is impossible, right? It's like a 1 in a million chance to be B. Smith. We know how hard that is, how much work it takes, how much strategy and planning it takes. So this woman did all of that, got this horrible, terrible, debilitating illness, and now her husband is out here in the Washington Post talking about how he moved in his girlfriend, and yes, it does matter that she's white. He does. Sorry. Maybe that's hypocritical of me. Don't care. And just having her out here looking crazy, I just find that to be unforgivable. Do you really think that would be in that woman's, that's what she would want? There's no way. There's no way. But because I don't plan on having children, I recognize that means that I have to be very, very on top of what my desires are. If something happens to me, you know, who's going to be in charge of my life and my care and my money. We think that we're going to be young and healthy and lucid and with it forever. We are not. Things happen, and it has really affirmed for me that, you know, I'm 30 years old, but things can go wrong at any moment. I just have to be very deliberate about not only the partner that you pick, because, oh my God, but the sorts of powers that you give to your partner. Is there any other family? How does the rest of the family feel? Are they stopping by? Are they checking in? Are they making sure that things are right? I assume that because they're married, that he, you know, automatically gets to have power of attorney and everything, but that just really, that story, I have to say, really freaked me out as somebody who is professionally ambitious, wants to have her own shit, wants to find a partner that is gonna have some shit and is not gonna act crazy, and does not desire to have children. Like, that is a worst case scenario. And then for Dan to be out here now, Dan, not only did you embarrass your partner, your wife, who spent decades building up this brand, not only did you embarrass her in the Washington Post, now you're out here with your girlfriend promoting a radio show? Are you crazy? Anyway, guys, that is all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for watching and being patrons. I appreciate you. Obviously, leave a comment, go to the YouTube channel and watch those videos. Send me an email, suggest topics, send me a message. Bye.